Welcome to Trenchometry. If you've spent any time in or around the trenches, playing offensive line isn't just blocking. It is chess at light speed. You're controlling angles while a 280-pound defender tries to destroy your running back. Every snap calculating leverage, mirroring footwork, and anchoring against pure violence. Miss one step and your franchise player gets flattened. We're here to discuss the most undervalued aspect of the game of football, the offensive line. Remember, you master the trenches, you win the war. My guest today began his journey in football as an offensive lineman in high school and collected some more experience in a football-adjacent sport as a rugby player at Western Michigan University. He mentioned a great line to me, which I think applies to myself as well. I'm a better coach than I ever was a player. After a short stint coaching in northern Arkansas, he currently is the offensive line coach for Battle Creek Central High School in Battle Creek, Michigan. He spends his offseason running lineman camps across the state of Michigan and is excited for his hard work to start producing some fruit. Two of his players last year signed with colleges last season. I'd like to welcome today Mark Quearry to Trenchometry. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy to talk ball.
Fantastic. So let's get right into this here and start with the first question. Do you have a philosophy as far as offensive linemen, positions, body types, mental mindsets? Is there anything specific to your offensive line when you go about developing and picking those guys, young guys, 8th grader, 9th grader coming up, and you're starting to funnel that talent into that offensive line that you're going to have out there for you on Friday nights or Saturdays? What are you looking for, and what are some of those components that you're trying to fill?
Well, it really just depends on how they move. I look at how they move more than anything. When I first got here, our offensive philosophy was based off the RPO system, and our main one, and still is a one back power. Basically, we base on the play side and skip pull a guard through and center blocks back if we're even front. So I went with bigger guards that had success because they could skip pull, but when we ran buck and stuff, it kind of got us. But we ran bang, which is our one back power, more often. So I went with bigger guards that could eat up the linebacker when they came through and really gave our back a two-way go. I had one that's playing at a Division III school nearby now. He was about 5'11", 6 foot tall, 360, and he could move. And linebackers' eyes got the size of dishes when he came through there, and he was mean too. He would chase our kids in practice. It was funny. That was the year we made the playoffs a couple years ago, and a lot of that was behind him. There was even a rumor our crosstown rival had a play to hurt a guard. That's the first time I've ever, in my almost 20 years of doing this, where they were scheming to hurt an offensive guard, but he was that valuable to us, and great kid. So, but then we switched over, and we do a lot more pin and pull now. So we even pulled our center, which a lot of high schools won't do, and I was weary of. But my starting center going into the year sprained his MCL, so I've had two, and they've been good enough at it. Going into the mechanics of it, I teach a dead ball snap, and I can tell where the ball is on what they did wrong most of the time. If it's going to the left, they were stepping to the right, and they didn't hit their landmark with their arm before they took their step. If it's high, it means our belt wasn't low enough. If it's low, we stood up too fast. So all of those things.
The old Newton laws of physics, the equal opposite reaction there happening as they snap the ball. So you're pulling the center. So I'm assuming you guys are a lot of gun, mostly out of gun. How often?
Yeah,
do you guys...
we practice under center during camp, and I don't think we ever went to it. So really like going under center, especially in short yardage situations. I build my philosophy about violence off the ball. This is a big contentious issue I just saw on social media yesterday. My tackles generally come out of a 2-point stance because we do throw the ball a lot too, and we're balanced. We're not loaded hand because my guys got to step every way. So if my hand is loaded, then I lose speed, because now if I have to take a duo step and gallop with all my weights going forward, but I have to gallop to my left, or I have to skip pull to my right, and all my weights forward, I have to actually rock back and shift my weight before I move. So a balanced stance. My both tackles played high this year, so I made them go back to a 3-point. But last year I had two that could do it.
So your guards are going to be speedy, right? You said that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went back.
You want a little bit more speed there, and your center is a speedy guy too. I mean, assuming if he's,
depending on who he is, we had a 300-pounder in there that would move a little bit. He wasn't the most agile when he was out there, but if he got in the way, he would make things happen. A guy that I thought was going to be my number one only played 4 of our 9 games this year. So due to MCL, he missed the first 2, came back for 2, and then hurt it again, and then came back for the last 2. So we did what we did, and really, if they could get out there and get in the way long enough for a guy to get around the corner, it works. And because we're pinning too, so that guy wants to move with him, and then they get pinned. It helps them carry the defender into the pin a little more, especially when we have a nose. So
What about your
or a
tackles?
one to that side.
What are you looking for with your
Tackles,
tackles?
I generally now we're bigger. My starting tackle actually moved to center when the other one went down, and then I had a sophomore come in who's a bigger kid. My left tackle is about 6'2", 280 long, but it just generally what I can fit. We do a lot of backside stuff, the gap hinge, and we ran a lot more counter this year really well. I really didn't have any linemen that couldn't move this year. My starting guards, at one was about 230 and the other one was like 210. So, but violent. My guards were my leading pancake guys. That's something I tracked throughout the season. Actually, my smallest one set our single season pancake record with 48 pancake blocks this year.
Wow.
So he's violent and he's a wrestler. So
Let me take a detour right there real quick. How do you define a pancake block? Because I'll tell you mine when after I hear yours, our definition that we use. How do you
so
gauge a pancake?
it's finishing him to the ground through and really I count knockdowns and pass pro
Okay.
to just to celebrate them. But really, they have to drive them forward and make progress, or drive them, open the hole, and finish them on top, not just slinging them down. I had one that developed a bad habit chasing stickers that wanted to just pull people down towards our run fits, but finishing them, driving them out of the hole and finishing the block. Both my guards were really good about that. One kind of got banged up and slowed down a little bit because he burst his bursa sac in his knee. Played every game, tough kid, but
I would
violent,
always
played to
give
the
them.
whistle.
I was gonna say we called them eagle blocks. Where our mascot was an eagle, and in order to earn an eagle
Sorry.
block, you had to get you had to knock the guy down, and he couldn't touch anybody else on your team. So there would be a
Okay,
guy.
I like
He'd be
that.
blocking, running the guy, picks him up. He's getting ready to put him down, and somebody ran by and would touch him. Just touch him. It doesn't have to or bounce off a leg or
Hmm.
land on the way down, hit a thigh board or whatever. And we didn't count that. So there would be guys, some guys developed a habit of seeing eagle blocks happening and would reach out and touch the eagle block to take it away from their lineman. And then in film, they'd be like, I knew I'd be able to take that away from you. So it's a pretty fun conversation to listen to as you listen to somebody complain about losing a block or losing a sticker. And then one of the things that we always would do, we would give out helmet decals. We had a whole big process for how you could get those things. But if you didn't win the game, you didn't get the sticker. So you had to win in order to get any helmet decals for our guys. So that would always kind of give you more incentive to pull it out. But that's awesome. 48, you said 48 pancakes in a season.
Hmm.
Nice job.
Yep.
All right. Go
My
ahead.
husky, my husky guard was the previous record holder with 44, so he upset him.
How did he take it? Does he know that his record's been broken yet? Did he take it well or?
I haven't got the chance to talk to him. I need to catch up with one of his late games and bring it up.
Yeah, he won't be happy, I'm sure. He'll want to go back and do a film review himself to make sure that everything was legit. I know guys that would want to do that. Coach, there's no way. No way. I got to go back and see that. All right, here's the film. Go see. Okay, so you got these guys that you're trying to develop a run game mentality. You said that you mentioned the violence aspect of it. How do you go about developing that with your guys as they are young guys or even middle, end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year? How are you getting that mentality established and rooted in those guys so that when they hit that football field, they know this is the time to flip that switch, turn it on, and get after somebody. I mean, bring it so that I always wanted to make sure that whoever we were playing was happy that they had 364 days to heal before they played us again. That was kind of what I wanted my guys to approach things as. How do you do that with your guys?
It's really the standard for me. It's something that I build as the standard. It's something I preach. We break down on choose violence every day. Every time we break, it's choose violence. But it really starts in the off season. I took over when I got here. I had one guy on my offensive line that could bench 225 multiple times. So I took over and designed a off season lifting program. We don't have the best lifting program in our school. So it's all after school and it tracks. It's all really basically off bigger, faster, stronger, but really getting back to the 4 core lifts and shifting reps and sets weekly. So then basically, if they can show up 3 days a week, they should show progress. And we've put 300 pounds, 400 pounds on totals over the course of an off season, getting guys being able to move people. So there's that. We have one of the weighted drive sleds in our weight room that our guys are required to hit every day. That we load at least 315 pounds on, and they have to drive it 10 times before they're allowed to leave on an off season day. Uh, and just being violent with their feet and hands and just in everything they do on the football field. For young guys, a lot of people go to the sled. I prefer boards. I got a little bit away from it this year because we were pretty thin, had a few injuries, and went more to a sled or driving bags under the chute because our pad level was an issue this year. But it really just depends on the year. I do King of the Boards is normally a weekly thing where we have a competition of basically winner stays, and whoever wins it, I'll buy a Gatorade for and bring it on Thursday for pregame. And then just those competitions and being violent off the ball, being able to drive somebody off the ball with intent. Um, are the things that I build around, but it's our mantra now.
So you're emphasizing and breeding it into them in the off season, and kind of like Urban Meyer would always reward the victorious guys in practice. He'd always do the ring, bull in the ring type of thing. And I remember hearing him at an AFCA convention years ago. I think this was probably when he was leaving Utah on his way into Florida, if I remember correctly. And he talked about in the spring game, they had a steak dinner, and anybody that was on the winning, I know he'd broken up the team into various smaller teams, and whoever was on the winning team, I don't know if it was through competitions, through lifting. I don't remember how he had broken them up, but they were competing amongst the team in smaller teams. And the winning team got a big steak dinner, big old potato. The losing team, and they had like nice dinner settings, like a 5-star dinner setting that they could sit down at and eat the steak. And then the losing team, he said he put them at the nastiest, oldest rickety picnic tables on campus he could find, and brought them in and gave them paper plates and plastic utensils and had raw hamburgers that had only been cooked partially through. That's what their meal was. So he was making that a point of emphasis early in his tenure at Florida. This is how we're going to reward it. You guys win, you're going to get treated like champions. You lose, you get treated like dogs. And that always stuck with me, the reward system that he put in place there.
Yeah. I worked for down in Northeast Arkansas at Galveston High School named Brandon Barbery, and we had football period, and him and our DC were evil masterminds and stuff like that. So we would lift 3 or 4 days a week, in depending on what part of the program we were in, and then the other days we would go out to our field because it was nice enough all year to go out to the turf and compete. And he would come up with crazy competitions where they either have to snap and then run down and catch it. And he would break them up into teams. We'd do competitions and we wouldn't tell the kids what they were, and they had to choose a person. It may be hanging from the rack, it may be a bear crawl competition or push up competition or bench this many reps or whatever, but some sort of competition. But even in like when they're playing football, the rules changed every play. The points changed, how many people could rush. So it was constant chaos. So when you got in a game, everything just seemed calm no matter what. And it paid off for us. We went to the quarterfinals a couple times and won a lot of games, even though we were the smallest 4A school there that wasn't private. And we actually, if we would have been 15 kids smaller in our average, we probably would have had a ring because we beat the 3A state champion. So pretty bad. So that competition, and I kind of took some of that from him too, just always competing, always trying to come out on top and find a way to compete. Had our head coach purchase record boards for our weight room. So
Yeah.
when we have an all-time record board for the highest ever, and then we have a current team one. And every time we max, I go change that, and the kids are trying to bump each other down and try to
Yeah.
knock each other off that too, to get all that competition pays off. Most of our kids play other sports. So last year I didn't have but 5 or 6 of my guys that came consistently in the off season because they were all wrestling, or I had a couple that played basketball, and a bunch of our kids did track, throwing, and baseball. Um, my first couple of years here, we had 15 or 16 that would show up every day, and I broke them up into teams and did stuff like that. And they got points for having good grades. They got points for improving on their maxes. We would do some competition stuff, and all those things would add up. And then I would buy the winning team pizza. The best thing was I would give it to them while the skill players down there lifting, and they were told to go eat it in front of them. Just that building that mentality that the winners are the best and we got to work for it. It's earned.
Yeah. We did a competition one time where we had one of those big tractor tires. It was probably 6, 7, 8 feet big. And we had 7 or 8
Hmm.
guys, and we divided everybody up into 7 or 8 guys team. This is we were away at football camp. We found this out here in Florida. We found this like sugarcane sand back pit area that was just off of where we were staying for this team camp, and they had a relay. They had a course they had to carry this tractor tire through, and the winning team. And we probably had to walk about a mile to the practice field, and then we practiced, and then at the end of practice we did this relay, and the winning team got to ride back to the dorms with Gatorade. And I remember putting those guys in the van, and I opened up the doors of the van, and they had the cold Gatorade bottles, and it's probably 100 degrees, and the guys are dog tired and they have to walk back. And we just drove that van up and down the highway they were walking back. All the losers were walking back, and I was just hitting the horn, and we were pouring cold water Gatorade out the window in front of all the guys. So there's something there for
Yeah.
that, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, coach,
I
go
forgot
ahead.
where I went with Barbary, but that's where I got it from him. He would buy drinks and pizza for the winning team, and everybody else had county fair for the entire football period. So
Yeah,
they're out there running their butts off, and the other guys are sitting in the stands having pop and pizza. So,
that's definitely motivation for sure. All right,
mhm,
coach. So how are you? Sounds like you guys are running the ball. You want to run the ball, right? And what are
mhm.
you doing to train the run skills and the run technique in your guys? Give me a drill or two that you're doing, the best drill or two in your opinion that you're going to do to get those guys to be violent, get off the ball, and move people out of the way.
Really, we started in the shoot working our one of the big ones we did year because we switched to running some duo stuff, working that double team under the shoe. I like the way Kyle Flood does it with a shoulder, what he calls a shoulder punch, but basically it's like the forearm shiver we were taught when I played. But the covered guy does that shoulder punch, and then the other guy gallops and meets him at in inserts with violence. So we worked that under the chute, and then worked up to a linebacker as they peeled off. That was one, and just working that movement. There's
Tell Break
one
that
I
down
picked.
for me. Break that down for me. Go a little bit
Okay.
deeper into that. Go with the post guy, the guy that's delivering the forearm shiver. What do his steps look like as he's coming? Give me a technique, give me a position, give me a technique that you're blocking, and talk me through the footsteps of that particular guy, what
So
he's going to do.
the biggest thing that I want to step through the crotch with my shoulder punch shoulder. So if he's on my left side, I'm punching my left. I don't want to cross the midline. I also one of the biggest things that you have to break high school kids of is trying to get the other shoulder in. Because if I bring my other hand into it, I'm going to turn and I'm not going to be able to peel. I'm not going to be square enough to peel off to a linebacker. That linebacker shows on my gap after I deliver my shoulder punch. So trying to get that gallops that step, that violent step off the ground and then get to balance and not turn is the hardest thing. I really preach staying square in our blocks, especially in going and getting away from this, but going to pass pro too. But that violence and staying square and then allowing that other guy to close the gap. Another key point that I also preach. I try not to overcoach the steps as much as I do where I want their hands and the violence of the feet.
Hmm.
I go with aiming points, but I don't want to get them thinking too much. I just want them fast off the ball and violent, getting their head and hand placement. But the other thing is once they can see with their hands, as I say, they know where that guy is. Their eyes have to get to second level
Hmm.
because they know where that guy is because they're blocking him. And the communication of you, me, and being able, if it's not me, if it's a you call, if I'm saying you, I have to get down the midline of that guy and take him over so we both don't even, or he's able to rip off because I'm saying it but didn't move my feet to overtake it. And then keeping my hip level down. We were always told low man wins. And really, I'm a believer in low hips win. If I have my power in my hips are loaded, I'm going to be able to move somebody even if their head's down. Their head being down, shoulder pads being lower doesn't beat my hips being down and me having power in my hips.
So the first guy's first step is knee to crotch. Second
Mhm.
step's gonna be outside, so you got half a man, and then you're staying
Yep.
square with that outside shoulder or inside shoulder, whichever way you're doing. It
Mhm.
could be a tackle helping the guard, a guard helping the tackle,
And
center
I'm
helping the guard, whatever way you're going. So that free
Mhm.
shoulder on the post guy is gonna be stay square. You don't wanna get involved. You close that door and you gotta fight through your shoulder and your hips and your angles, your knees and your toes are all off angle there. So you're staying square. The backside guy, is he burying you want him burying his head into the midline of the down guy as he watches the obviously an outside eye on the
no,
backer. What are you teaching on the backside technique there?
I really want I want them both to keep their gallop foot high. So I always say the inside hip high. I'm in a double team, I want both of them to be able to peel off because they have to stay square too. I really want them to aim more like in front of the post player's hip and insert with violence. We do a little staking drill. It's I haven't really got it to translate yet. That's something I need to work on uh, where we're staking off. We do it on our 5-man sled. It's part of our sled progression. Really bringing that impact of that hip and joining that double team with force. So it gets that extra movement and I can get my eyes up because by the time that guy gets there, their eyes almost have to be up instantly, but they have to get that. Really, I put more emphasis on closing the gap with the post player so they can't split the double team and then getting hands. I want that hand, my inside hand down on my side of the chest, thumb up, and outside hand free.
So as that backer, let's assuming the backer is gonna scrape over the top for you there.
Hmm.
So that the post guy, the initial guy's coming off the block, you're pushing with your hip through the guy trying to get him off the next level. When are you telling that guy to come off for the linebacker that's on the front side of that block? Is there a target or a aiming point or
I'm trying to get
trigger point?
down. I really want to do it enough time to get down the middle of him, or at least halfway through. If it's too late and I open up late, then we're gonna miss that block anyway. So it's really just timing. I don't really coach it on a certain time. They just have to be able to see it quick enough to get to that linebacker. Either too late or too early because it's different with every kid on every rep.
Mhm.
So the consistency of my scout team is not always the scout
Yeah.
team. The guy trying to be the scout team all star too, but that's always good too because some guys will be there faster than others, and that's something we look at in our scout is if they're flow downhill fast, then we have to be really aware of that double team. If they walk up, we may just single block. I also have an automatic rule. I'm a cut block. I'm a roll cutter. I believe it gives the offensive a advantage if that's
Mhm.
always in the back of their head. If a linebacker walks up, it's automatic cut if I get a solo block. So
Dent that thigh board if you can. I would always tell my
yeah, yeah.
guy that when he crosses your nose, that's when you wanna disengage from the down guy. And I would always
Okay.
I harped on the 45-degree angle. When you come off, I want a 45-degree angle. And that way you're matching you're staying in front of that guy and you're not opening it up enough so that if he tries to undercut you, you can close the door on him real quick. I always told the guys, I'm not if the guy beats you across your face, you take a good 45-degree angle and he beats you across your face, don't be afraid to just latch on that backside number and just push him across the hole. That was
Hmm.
something that we got pretty good at because they were patient, and if they were too patient, then they did get beat, but it didn't mean that the block was over. You just got on the wrong side of the block and blocked the inside out leverage and pushed them across at the back could cut back. And our backs were usually pretty good enough about seeing those cutback angles that they could do that and benefit from it. So that's awesome. Okay.
And don't give up on it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And accelerate your feet at some point. At some point, it becomes the violence
Hmm.
aspect takes over, and the want to has got to be better than the linebackers want to for sure.
They're
Okay,
a really good second level.
I was going to say, come back to that cutoff. What do you? So if you have a inside technique, your tackle's got like a 4-eye or a gap player there. I'm assuming you're going to want him to cut off that gap guy or that linebacker. Or what are you telling them technique wise? How do you want them to approach that block?
So we do it a couple different ways. Are you talking about backside
Yes, sir.
cutoff or we call it a gap hinge. Really, it just depends on the technique they're playing. Sometimes we'll just 1 week we just down blocked it because they were slanting. We have a couple teams this year that it seemed like the only thing their defensive line it was told to do is create chaos. So their linebacker play. So we would down block it and just try to jam them into whatever the center was blocking back and basically create a pile of bodies. We'll cut that guy sometimes on the backside with a backside tackle. But really, it's a gap hinge. We're closing that gap. If it's a normal guy that wants to keep gap contain. We're trying to get our head across and close that gap. If for some reason you get a stunt and that guy's not there, then we hinge back and just try to make him run around. Basically, the variation of it is just us down blocking
And,
because they're
and
trying to just shoot that gap.
so if it's a linebacker shooting a gap, you probably would just have that guy down, straight down block him and clog it up.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, so in the run block phase, what's one drill that you think or one technique that you think is overcoached, overrated, and not worth the time spent on doing it? Like a pitfall
In
that for
run
young
block,
coaches or inexperienced coaches, a pitfall they might fall into where they hear, you got to do this, you got to do this. What's one drill that you might overlook a little bit more than what everyone else would want you to?
I think in the run block phase, I think just getting stuck on specific step placement all the time over violent and fast feet. Sometimes I've overcoached kids and they slow down too much, and I just abandoned it and say run off the ball for a couple kids because they just stop moving. Because you can mess kids up that are naturally violent off the ball by making them overthink. I really try to go with hat placement and wide feet. So I think just trying to keep the base and trying to coach the base and then hat placement can take care of a lot of the other stuff. I think just worrying too much about perfect steps sometimes takes away from it because once you get in a game, it's chaos and it's not always going to be perfect steps. You try to overcoach it in practice, but just being violent off the ball, I think takes care of some of that stuff.
That's a good point. How much passing do you guys do? I hear you say you're pretty well balanced run pass
Yeah, we
earlier?
we try to be off our one back power. We ran a snag off it, but we do a lot of pass blocking stuff. I only work it on Wednesdays, but I do a lot with my guys in the off season with it. We do me and another coach. He was a Division II All American a couple years and won a couple national titles with Grand Valley. Me and him got together, started doing some O line training, basically because I've seen one on one drills at college camps where high school kids that just run the ball all the time can't even pass set. They're lunging forward and getting beat. So we did those and we put together, we have a lineman league over by Detroit, the Legacy. It's a big training group here that's private. They put together and we get local athletes and put the Southwest Michigan team and drive the 2 hours over there for the 4 Sundays to compete. And so my guys, I have 5 or 6 guys that'll be on that team and we get a lot of pass reps and that and get to a lot of instruction from either me or him off that.
So what are some of the competition? What are some of the drills that you're using in the competition? What does that look like?
Basically just one-on-one reps.
Okay.
They either, I mean, you get 2 reps. If it's a dominant win by either side, they get 2 points. If it's a win, but a mediocre win, they get one, and if you lose, you get zero. We really emphasize, I think, even more so than in run blocking. I think a lot of people get lost in the punch in pass pro in high school. I think footwork is way more important because if you have bad feet, a punch isn't going to save you if you're opening your hips and you're losing your post and not staying you're opening right away or you're standing up or leaning forward, all those things. I think the feet and the base are way more important than a punch. I've seen passer ups to one where they didn't even punch. They just were in the right spot with good hips and won it.
That's
So
right. So how are you instilling that in your guys? What's a big major component to how you get that in your guys? And you said most of that's in the off seasons. And what are you doing? Are you setting on bags? Are you um, doing like a waterfall
it,
drill where you're going back and forth, left to right, hitting on either side? What exactly are you doing?
it depends on the position. We jump set a lot with my center because they're kind of at a disadvantage there in front. They can't really turn either. So we jump set a lot with the center. My guards, we just were pounding the post, pound the post, pound the post, pound the post. I'll post and have them. We have a turf room in the back, and they'll post and punch with a med ball
Okay.
into that wall. And I want to see their head come back when they punch. So where I know they're not getting their chest into it and falling forward and they're not coming out of their hips. Well, punch and they have to post and punch and throw the ball. Mirror drill where they gain ground on the defender, but the defender has to stay the same. So they move laterally, but they gain ground on their post to try to cut it off. There's all sorts of we do a lot of different stuff in the 45 minutes that we get to do it. One of the warm up drills Mike does every day, and it's one of his everyday drills. He'll put boards up and they have to kick down the boards backwards
Uh-huh.
and then pound the post to the next board. So he sets 4 up, they pound the post to the next board, kick backwards, then they pound their feet in run blocking situations forward, and then they pound the post the next one and go through it both ways. So they have to they run warm up and their post and their kick all in the same, trying to keep their hips down.
So they're pulling on those on the back. They're pulling straight back, a straight vertical drop. They're not getting at an angle. Those boards are like a rectangle or a square that they're going through the drill.
They're like 4 set up parallel to each other. So
Yeah. Okay.
they'll drop. It's a vertical set on
Yeah.
the
Okay.
backward.
Got it. Okay. And so you find that by doing that in the off season, you're developing that muscle memory that you're going to rely on in the regular season. So you're just a maintenance kind of in the regular season on that 1 day a week.
We did a lot of one-on-ones with the defensive line on Wednesdays. We were almost 2 platoon. Starting off the beginning of the year, I would have my primary offensive guys, which was pretty much every offensive lineman that played for me. We had one guy that floated back and forth, our sophomore. He played a lot more D-line than the rest of my guys, and the rest of my guys maybe played 30 snaps together all year on defense other than him. I had them most days, and then Wednesdays we would switch, but we always started off doing one-on-ones against the D-line. So we just made it a competition,
Mm-hmm.
talk our stuff. But that's how we would start off our practice after we warmed up on
And that's
Wednesdays,
giving
was just going back over it.
the defense some practice time on pass
Mhm.
rush for their individual battles that they'll see on during games as well. So you're kind of iron on iron there, getting each other better
Yeah, we
down the
always
line.
pride ourselves on being their best competition throughout the week. In the off season up here, you can't use pads, so all that lineman league stuff is no helmets, no pads. So when we get pads on, our guys are like, "Man, this is easy to block
Yeah.
defenders with pads on." So it makes it.
What's the one drill? You got weather coming in. I don't know, lightning, thunder in Michigan. I don't even know if you guys have weather coming. We lose wet ball days down here like it's going out of style, and thunderstorms in Southwest Florida. Particularly at the end of middle of August and the beginning of September, you could lose three practices a week because of weather. What's the one drill? You got 10 minutes, weather's coming in. What's the one drill you're going to do with your guys that's imperative, that has to get done?
I would probably it would be my board drills if I had to choose, or some sort of sled work. This year we were beat up, so I would go to the sled and I would have them pick teams, and we wouldn't use the middle one, and I would make them compete on driving that sled, and whoever the losing team had to do push-ups, whoever was able to turn it, they won that rep, and then we'd count them up. Losing team had push-ups for every rep they lost. Just some sort of competition like that, and driving, getting off the ball. The one thing I will say that I'm good at is I can break down a play and see what skills we need to work on. And if I don't know of a drill, I'll come up with one where we replicate what we have to do in a game. With the very limited time of inside or indie time that I have as an offensive line coach, because it's precious to us. The rest of the offensive staff doesn't understand why I need so much indie time, but I really try to replicate what we're doing. So if we struggled on getting through the hole on counter with my backside tackle, as he's wrapping through the hole, I'll set up a drill where we just work that kick out and him coming down off that down block. If we struggle on skip pull and we're skipping too wide, we'll replicate that. So I try not to do anything in Indy that we're not going to do in a game. If there's not a drill, I'll sit down and figure out a way to replicate what we need to work on, whether it's counter. I did one. I came up with one for our pin and pull. What's our pin and pull rules? If he's away, I pin. If I'm running to the right and there's a guy in my away gap, I pin. If not, I pull, except for a backside tackle, which we gap hinge to close any inside penetration. So I would make them line up, and I would tell who was offense. I had 2-on-2, and I would just yell out what play we're running and which way, and they would have to think on the fly and do it. This is the smartest group of offensive linemen I've ever had, but I think stupidity by proximity was a thing with them. They, like, one person went dumb, they all went dumb.
Contagious. Yeah.
So I had to take as much thinking out of it and make it as rapid fire as I could. I'll set up counter, buck, all those drills like that where I'm creating what I want them to do in the game and make it a drill.
Yeah, I would always try to structure so I probably do the first 15, 20 minutes of Indy every day would be technique work. Solid offensive run block, pass block, whatever it was some sort of technique work. And then the next 15, 20 minutes was all specific, building on each other for whatever the schemes were for that week. So if it was working with the tag with your wingman next to you, or if it was recognizing a blitz or whatever it was, and I would scaffold it into the week. As we got into the week, it would depend more and more on we'd add another guy. Start off as an individual, then work with the guy next to you, then work 3 and then 5, and then you have the whole line there. And we're looking at by Wednesday, we would play on Friday. So Wednesdays were I call it a dress rehearsal. I want to be game speed on Wednesday and play the game Wednesday first. So the second time you're playing the
Hmm.
game was on Friday. And that's where all the blitzes would come in. As an offensive coordinator, I'd try to put my guys in the worst possible situation that they could be in on Wednesday. And then at least if they saw it and they handled it well, hey, that's great. But on Thursday, we could correct it in film. And then on Friday when it came up, they'd be like, "Oh, I remember now. I'm not getting burned on this the second time. I got this going forward. I know what I'm doing." Coach, you mentioned earlier, I think part of this sounds like a lot of the off-season working, group work that you're doing, and a lot of focus on the competition. Talk to me a little bit about how you develop that camaraderie on your offensive line and how important that is in your mind.
So that was maybe what I'm best at, is building culture. Even in my classroom, I have a bunch of Velcro students that hang around, but it's all my fat kids that come in here.
Mhm.
But that was one of the issues we had here when I first got here. Nobody wanted to be an offensive lineman. Everybody wanted to play defense or tight end, or they thought they were a 300-pound running back. So that was one of the mindsets we changed. We started by having uh, one, the competition stuff, and then making pride. Our head coach bought in, and we have a lineman only locker room. The skilled players are not allowed in it unless they have permission. They're always the first to eat and team meals. We go away to camp, so they're the first to eat every meal when we go away to camp for the first 3 days, and then just building them up, celebrating them. We got them T-shirts the first year. If they made all their workouts or made enough workouts, they earned a T-shirt with Bearcat Hogs on it. And it's something that we built pride around, and they get to go do a lot of stuff. Our head coach takes care of us, helps fund us going to do all those competitions, and then O-line camps all over the state. I'm blessed to have a network of coaches that continue to let me coach in their camps, and I always bring a van load of kids with me, and whether it be in the other side of the state or not, I get a group that goes with me, and they get to do a lot of that kind of stuff that they didn't get to do before, and get coached by other people that are great as well.
Battle Creek big boys travel, right? They travel
Yeah,
strong and
we
hard.
wear out our crappy little vans over the summers.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, coach, as we get close to the end here and we start to wind down, I'd like to ask everybody this question, and typically offensive line coaches have some stories they're not willing to share because they might be not proper for this venue. But as we know, the offensive line is a collection of misfit toys sometimes and
Mhm.
misfit personalities that all fit together perfectly fine in that offensive line room or the offensive line only locker room. I love that idea. And I can only imagine how crazy that can be. But
Yeah.
most of them are characters, one way or another. They have ideas about things that I don't know how they get them. They have traditions and superstitions that make no sense to anybody. They make them up as they go, it seems like. But do you have some characters that you've coached and a story or two that might illustrate what type of character and mindset develops being in that offensive line coach's room and locker room?
Yeah, this bunch I have now, my culture may have worked a little too well. It's kind of like it's like something off the show Oz. If you are not a lineman and walk into that locker room, we've had to tell them to calm down a couple times this year. But it's always weird because once a skilled player gets pulled into it, it's like they become a little lineman, and I don't know, it's like an initiation.
Yeah.
But my crew now, they really started coming around as freshmen. It was funny, 2 years ago, we did their freshman year, we did workout or sophomore year, they did workouts at noon, and all the linemen would show up with fishing poles, and then they would go lift, and then they would go down. There's a pizza restaurant down the street. They'd walk down and split a large pizza and go fish the rest of the day,
That's awesome.
come in sunburnt and everything else. But I've had a couple guys over the years that have some good stories. One was a D line guy that's probably one of my favorite ones. So we have the D lineman, great kid, and I had the nicest center of all time. This kid was a monster with a dummy. He was a big old kid, strong, but it didn't translate to his game. But with a dummy, he would. My nicest kid center ever, never cussed. He'd be cussing this kid out at 10 minutes into team because we practiced it. We were low on numbers, but then it wouldn't translate to a game. So we're out
Yeah.
there in the game when he's in the other, hold the dummy. Like it never translated, but Gary's a great guy, and it was memorable. That was one of my favorites. I had a kid that had, especially down south. I had some mismatched groups. I was at a smaller winning school, but we had a kid that was a member of the 4x1 team at guard.
Wow.
Uh, and he wasn't the brightest, but he was a good time, old Jamal, and I would always mess with him. He was always wear a headband, and I'd snap it and say I'm kick starting it, so you won't mess up this game. But he was out there fighting. Funny story, actually, track, because I coach track down there too. We put him in the 4x8, and he runs the first lap like it's the 400.
Oh, yeah.
And we look, as he's crossing, and go, "You got one more." He looks at us like we shot his dog, and then finishes it, and then lays at the finish line and saying my booty hurts for 20 minutes.
That's
So that
phenomenal.
was a pretty good one.
That reminds me, we had a kid one time this was on our state championship team. He wasn't a very big kid. He was probably about 5'10", about 180 pounds. I mean, not much to look at. You definitely wouldn't pick him to be a starting offensive lineman on a 5A state championship team. And he was as blind as a bat. And he'd come at the sidelines and be like, "Hey, tell me, what number do you have on you?" And he'd be like, "Coach, I don't know. I can't see that far." I'm like, "Dude, you can't see the jersey number on the guy across the line from you?" He goes, "No, I don't have my contacts in." So I'm like, "Hey, next time we get out there, can you look over there and tell me who's across from Jason and what number it is so I know what personnel's on the field? We can track it properly." "All right, coach, I'll look out there." They'd forget. "Jason, you know what? Coach, I think it was a 6 or it could be an 8. I don't know. I'm not sure." We won a state championship
Going
with that
going
guy. He
back
couldn't see 4 feet. I mean, we won a state championship with him. So
going back to
unbelievable.
that center that was so frustrated, Gary, talking about a coachable kid. So I'm showing him how to be center. He moved up from tackle to center, and I'm showing him how to snap. Well, I'm right-handed. I'm showing him how to snap right-handed. He comes to me after 2 weeks and goes, "Coach, I'm left-handed. Do you think I'd snap better with my left hand?" I'm like, "Yes, Levi, you probably would. Maybe we should try that."
My gosh.
I mean, you can't
Oh,
get
that's
much more
hysterical.
coachable than that.
Yeah,
But
uh,
yeah,
yeah, we had a guy one time. His name was Daryl, and Daryl was always late off the ball. And we made a joke that we should name him Daryl because it always took us 2 times to call his name before we realized that Daryl, wasn't paying attention. So all of a sudden one day I'm like, "Man, it's just like he's deaf." And so he was our left tackle. So I'm like, "Daryl, why is it you're always all late off the ball? And we got to call your name twice." I said, "It's almost like you're deaf." He goes, "I am deaf in my right ear, coach." And we had him playing left tackle. So he couldn't hear the snap count. So we switched him to right tackle, and he was immediately off the ball like everybody else. It never occurred to me to ask him if he could hear out of both ears.
yeah,
Things you learn over your career, right?
I had a coach that I worked with at the first school. When I was like real grown, I was like 22 when I got my first high school coaching job because my stepbrother got the job. One of the guys coaching with us, we had a kid that got his ear ripped off by a dog when he was little, and he was cussing this kid, and I realized he was speaking in the wrong ear hole. He turned his head mid cussing and started going to the ear that was actually there.
That's brutal. Well, coach, I am so thankful for you taking time out of your schedule today and sitting down and talking football with us and talking about some techniques that you've taken up there to Battle Creek. And I look forward to continuing a relationship with you and touching base with you. And who knows, maybe even getting up to Michigan and seeing some of those offensive linemen and seeing some summertime offensive line drills and competitions. That sounds like a good time to go. And I wish you all the best of luck as you head into the offseason here and get your guys stronger and start that bigger, faster program you talked about earlier and getting those strength totals up over 1,000 pounds towards 1,200 pounds and put a couple 1,200 pounders out there. And it's amazing how much better your offense runs up front. So hopefully you get those guys cranking up that direction.
Yeah, we got a few, or yeah, we had to start a 1,500-pound club because we include deadlift in ours. So
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome.
I'm hoping a 2,000-pound club guy will be soon. So,
That's
but
phenomenal. Well, thank you very much.
I
Again,
appreciate you, and I love
you're
talking ball.
welcome.
So
You're welcome very
thank you
much.
for the
And
opportunity.
I've really enjoyed it. And as we sign off here, remember, you master the trenches, you win the war. Take care.
You too.
Hope you're enjoying Trenchometry. Assuming that you are, please hit that like button and subscribe. Remember, master the trench, you win the war.